Alright, CSD 15, we have reached our last unit of instructional videos, and this unit is going to be all about consonants. I gotta be honest, it's a pretty hard chapter, but it's not hard conceptually, it's just a lot that you need to memorize. Even more than the vowel unit, I would recommend instead of once a day going over your flashcards, going over twice a day, because there is a lot more information you need to know for all of these consonants, and it's a lot of stuff, but I know you can do it. I have faith in you. You're gonna look back on this whole experience and be like, oh, I got this. You're gonna look at an R and be like, oh my gosh, that's a voiced alveolar liquid. What? So like the other two units, I'm going to be trying to break down all of the really hard topics that are covered in this unit, and specifically differentiating between two consonants that may sound really similar and when to use what. So like in the first video, I'm going to give you all of the topics I'm going to be covering in today's video. So we have, what do we have? Alveolar versus palatal, how to differentiate between that, and the alveolar nasal versus the velar nasal, stuff like that. So click on a timestamp for whichever one you'd like to see, and let's just get started. Okay, the first one, how to tell the difference between alveolar and palatal. To be honest, I still have trouble with this one. It's really not easy to tell the difference between these two because it's not like a velar or a labiodental, because it's really hard to tell where all of your musculature and where all your speech structures are making the sound, because an alveolar and a palatal is just like, it just happens. So it's really kind of hard to tell, but it's not impossible to tell. So here is what I have been kind of going with to determine if it's alveolar or palatal. So let's take, for example, the words to and chew. And this is where to is alveolar and chew is palatal, and su is alveolar and shu is palatal. So I want you to single out the onset of both of these. So the t sound and the ch sound. So let's say to. Two. Okay? Do you kind of feel how two, like the tip of your tongue ever so slightly reaches your alveolar ridge? Okay, and now in contrast, let's say chew, chew, chew. Do you kind of feel how your tongue, like, ever so slightly reaches your palate, your hard palate? So yeah, let's say those back to back. To, chew. To, chew. You can kind of feel it. For me, it took a little bit, so it just takes a lot of repetition. In another example, let's say su and shu. Su. Su. It's not as apparent in this example as to two. You can kind of feel how the tip of your tongue isn't as prominently on your alveolar ridge, but it's still like kind of up there. Whereas if you say shu, shu, your tongue kind of lays kind of flat, and it's a palatal sound. When in doubt, say to chew or su shu, and you'll be able to tell the difference between alveolar and palatal. So it was a little hard for me to tell when I should use the velar nasal, specifically when combined in a sequence with K or KS or anything like that, or just using it in general. Because basically the velar nasal, it's basically the N sound said velarly, if that makes sense. So it's definitely like a nasal n sound, but you don't say it alveolarly, you say it in the back of your mouth. So you would think that you would kind of combine like the letters NG to create the ng sound. But phonetically speaking, the velar nasal is very different than the two phonemes n and g. So to demonstrate my point, I want you to say these two words, thin and think. Say those. So feel how the n sound touches your alveolar ridge, but your n is felt in the velum. That's why it's a velar sound. So now I want you to try to pronounce the word think with the alveolar nasal sound. Think. Think. Like, it just doesn't sound the same. Because think about it, like, structurally speaking, I'll put a diagram right up here to help demonstrate my point. When you say the K sound, that's obviously a velar sound, and when you say the N sound, it's an alveolar sound. So it's gonna take a lot for your mouth to jump from alveolar to velar all in one sequence. Like, that's just, it's a lot of mouth movement. So what we do to simplify that is we have the velar nasal sound. We can still make the sound like resonating in the nasal cavity, but we just say it more velarly. So whenever you have a k sound followed by an n sound, you want to use the velar nasal. And to kind of bounce off of that, I was also kind of confused when to add the g sound after the velar nasal, because sometimes it's necessary and sometimes it's not. For my example for this one, I'm going to say the word sing. It would sound pretty ridiculous if I said sing. So you see how like pronounced the g sound is? So we just say sing. The g sound is there, but it's not totally pronounced as if it were its own its own phonetic symbol. But if we take the word finger, finger, you wouldn't say finger, you clearly pronounce the g sound, finger. So you would pronounce that and transcribe it with a G. To which I come back to the first point I made in the very first video. When in doubt, sound it out. If you're doubting yourself with whether to use the velar nasal or whether to use the g sound, you just need to sound it out completely normally, or even better yet, have your roommate sound it out or have your mom sound it out, something like that, so that you can get the most natural way that people say this word, so that you can most accurately transcribe it. Because I know that when you're trying to transcribe a word, you're trying to think, okay, how do I transcribe this word? So you're gonna try to draw the word out and make it not as natural. So have someone else say the word so you can try to hear the most accurate transcription. Alright, so now that I've gone over those 3 things, I'm gonna do another transcription quiz for y'all. So with this includes monophthongs and diphthongs, but also some of the harder consonants, so not the ones that are really obvious like the S and the K, but it's more of those like, whoa, what is that symbol? I don't know. We are going to go ahead and get started, and good luck! And this is going to be the same style that we've pretty much always done in this class. I'm going to say listen and watch, and then listen and transcribe, and then I'll give you 10 seconds, and then we'll move on to the next one. Listen and watch, zeesh. Listen and transcribe, zeesh. Listen and watch, padge. Listen and transcribe, padge. Listen and watch, them. Listen and transcribe, them. Listen and watch, vowed. Listen and transcribe, vowed. Listen and watch, toge. Listen and transcribe, toge. Listen and watch, rith. Listen and transcribe, rith. Listen and watch, yoik. Listen and transcribe, yoik. Listen and watch, gub. Listen and transcribe, gub. Alright, so now that we've gone through that transcription quiz, I'm also going to go through this again and have the actual transcriptions on the bottom so you can check your answers. Listen and watch, zeesh. Listen and watch, padge. Listen and watch, them. Listen and watch, vowed. Listen and watch, toge. Listen and watch, rith. Listen and watch, yoik. Listen and watch, gub. Alright, so that completes Unit 3 and also the completion of my honors project. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this and found it really helpful. If you have any other questions pertaining to phonetics, about the learning checks or transcription quizzes, or if you have just any questions about phonetics at all, please please go to your professor, go to your GA, go to your undergrad TAs. They are here to help you, and I know that they'll be a really great resource to you. And don't be afraid to ask for tutoring, because I know that really helps. But yeah, I wish you the best of luck in your journey with phonetics, and I hope to see us fellow speech language pathologists and audiologists in the future. Bye guys!